I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and this is Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. This game came out in 1990 for the Sega Genesis exclusively, which is why it's being featured on Genesis Does. It was released November 21st, 1990 in Japan, December 1990 in North America, in the European Union, March 1991. It was later ported to several different systems, including the Sega Master System in February of 1991, the Game Gear throughout the year 1991 in various regions, and Sega Saturn came out October 15th, 1998 in Japan, a revisit of the original game brought up to date for that platform. Not the first time that's been done, as a matter of fact. It was remade in 2013 by Sega Studios Australia and released on PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Arcade, and personal computers. And it was done with a 2.5D view and 3D graphics, and under the supervision of the original game's director, Emiko Yamamoto, the original version being the one we're looking at right here. The game was also made available as a pre-order bonus, so you could get this game with that game, if that makes any sense. You could get the 1990 version paired with the 2013 version. This is widely considered to be a classic of the Sega Genesis, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why. But first, I'm going to give you some scores that it got back in the day from various reviewers. Mean Machines gave the Master System version 93% and the Sega Genesis version 95%. Megatech gave the Genesis version 93%. Arcade County gave it 90%. So basically, 9 out of 10 across the board when it comes to this. I don't have any PC version scores. I only have one Game Gear score, but that got an 8 out of 10, which I can imagine was largely due to it being pixel squashed, bit crushed, whatever term you would like, to fit into the smaller resolution of the Master System. Now, everything about this is visually appealing right from the get-go. Mickey Mouse looks like you would expect him to if this was a cartoon and not a video game. And that's one of the reasons this game has held up and been ported so many times over the years, is it has a very distinctive visual style. What can I say? Mickey looks good animated, especially considering the work put in here by the programmers and designers. I've already mentioned Emiko Yamamoto, but let's give credit where it's due to everybody involved. Yoshio Yoshida, Tomozo Endo, Michelle Koba, Takashi Yuda, pardon me, Mikurin Nishida, Takako Kawaguchi, and Kyuzu F. But that was only for the Master System and Game Gear. The composers were Tokuhiko Uwabo and Shigenori Kamiya. So there's quite a team working at Sega on this game. And that's another thing that I think stands out about this game is later on, Disney was working with, not directly with the console publisher themselves. They went through third-party software houses to make games for the system. But in this case, they were like, no, we're working with the people who make the console itself. We're going to Sega. Sega's going to make this game, and they're going to make a game worthy of the Disney brand and franchise. And I feel like they've achieved that goal here. Let me tell you a little of the execution of the plot so you get a better idea of what I'm doing as you watch this gameplay. You have to rescue Minnie Mouse from an evil witch named Ms. Rebel. A clear pun on the word miserable, one that I don't object to in any way. Mickey is told that in order to defeat Ms. Rebel, he must find the 7 gems of the rainbow. Somewhere over the... Okay, you get the idea. The Masters of Illusion are bizarre creatures. Enchanted mushrooms, toy soldiers, unicycle riding clowns, and armored knights, among others. The levels in the game include the Enchanted Forest, Toyland, the Storm, Desert Factory, the library, and finally, the castle itself. Mickey has two different attacks in this game. You can bounce whilst jumping to defeat certain enemies, or to be bounced upward towards higher platforms. You also have a shot you can throw at enemies, but you can only get that by collecting the apples that are strewn throughout levels. So you have a limited number of shots, and once they run out, you're out. So your real goals here are to time your jumps from one platform to the next, avoid enemies as much as possible, and only use shots when necessary. This is a game of strategy, and for that reason, it moves a little slower than many platform games you may be used to. Something that I, in fact, am having some difficulty with here because it's been a while since I've revisited this game. So if you're used to moving really fast like a Super Mario Brothers or a Sonic the Hedgehog style platforming game, that's not what Castle of Illusion is all about. You have to slow down, take your time, plan your jumps, and learn your route as you go through. And much like the title itself, there are a lot of things that are illusions that you need to learn to deal with. Some enemies you can bounce on, some you can't. Some walls you can walk through, some you can't. There's a wide variety of secrets that you have to figure out while playing Castle of Illusion in order to make progress. One of the other things I'd like to point out here as you're looking at the gameplay footage is the multiple layers of animation that you're watching, not just from Mickey Mouse himself, but you're seeing the trees move in the foreground, you're seeing the forest move in the background. There's a very nice illusion of depth to the playfield. It's not a three-dimensional depth, but it's a parallax depth that really brings together the visual effect of this game. Again, you wouldn't really expect anything less from a Disney franchise title, but it's all the more impressive considering that Disney handed off the work to Sega and trusted them to represent their vision, and they did a great job of it. This spiderweb level is one of the most famous ones from Castle of Illusion. I think it's probably one of the first things people think of when they think of this game. And again, it's all about the timing here. You have to jump on these leaves and avoid the spiders as they move up and down. And the leaves, some of them are just platforms, but some of them float to different areas. So once again, timing is everything. And you have to appreciate the ones that are movable having a subtle effect to them, that when you jump on them, they kind of wiggle a little as if they're floating under Mickey's weight. You can see them kind of droop down a little and then bounce back up. So there's something holding them up, but you don't know what. It's some sort of magical force. And things get really creepy in this area. When you walk in, everything seems normal for just a moment, and then the trees go barren and the sky goes black, and it really gives you this ominous sense of dread that Mickey is in for a bad time, as Sans would say in Undertale. So many things come together in Castle of Illusion. The animation of Mickey, the animation of the background, the animation of the enemies, the sound, the appeal, the careful, methodical pace. Almost, you could call it slow, but I would call it measured. It's a platformer that makes you think. You take your time to make your way through this game. If you rush, things don't tend to work out the way that you want them to, but if you step your way through it and plan your next move, then you can proceed to get to the goal. And I'm sure there are speedrunners out there who would debate that point. Now, see here, this is one of the things I was talking about. Secret walls. You have to learn where these are through trial and error unless you're looking at a walkthrough. But the point I was just trying to make was that I'm sure there are speedrunners who either through abusing glitches or precise memorization of the routes, know faster ways to clear the level and get the entire game done in the lowest amount of time. I'm not a speedrunner. That's not what I'm about. Not saying I'm against speedrunning, just saying I'm not playing Castle of Illusion to get it done in the fastest amount of time. I want to absorb the experience. And I think that's something that gets missed in a lot of debates about whether or not playing video games is a waste of time. Something that not too long ago I saw a debate between Ben Yahtzee Croshaw and another writer from The Escapist on YouTube, and they were debating whether or not Animal Crossing New Horizons was a waste of time. And one of the biggest arguments the antagonist had, with Yahtzee ironically being in the position of protagonist saying it's not a waste of time, which may not be the position he really adheres to, but it's the one he was arguing for the basis of the video, which was called Civil War, by the way. If you want to look it up, it's called Civil War, or slightly Civil War, something to that effect. Anyway, what the antagonist was arguing was loading times make Animal Crossing New Horizon a bigger waste of time than most games because you're only playing it for short amounts of time, so the loading times take up an inordinate amount of time compared to other more immersive games that you would play for longer. And Yahtzee's counter-argument to that was, I can play Animal Crossing for hours. I can find hours of things to do. I can fish. I can hunt for bugs. I can redecorate my house. I can do fetch quests for the townies. I can find ways to spend hours playing the game. So the fact that you can only play it for minutes at a time is more a reflection of your attitude and not really a reflection on the quality of the game itself. I think there's something to be said for a game is what you make of it, and that's where I'm going with this. Is Castle of Illusion might seem slow to people who are used to fast-paced action platformers, modern video games, but this game demands you lose yourself in it, take your time with it, enjoy it, experience it, and if you rush through it, then you are not achieving the goal that they set out here by design. Just the name itself implies the journey. It's a castle of illusion. It's something that you are working your way towards, that you are going to work your way through. It's not going to happen instantaneously. You're going to experience it over time, which I suppose makes it much like a Disney animated feature or a Disney movie. It's something that you just experience and enjoy and let it play out the way that it goes. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been Genesis Does. Thank you for watching.